There's something you do when nobody's watching, something you might feel embarrassed about, something you've probably never admitted to anyone. You talk to yourself, not just random words, full sentences, maybe even entire conversations. You narrate your actions, question your decisions, work through problems out loud like you're hosting your own private podcast. And here's what society tells you about this habit: that it's weird, that it's childish, that maybe you should be concerned. But what if I told you the exact opposite is true? What if the very thing you've been hiding is actually a sign of something extraordinary happening inside your brain? Today, we're going to explore 4 psychological traits that are almost always present in people who talk to themselves. And by the end of this, you won't just understand why you do it, you'll realize it's one of your greatest strengths. Let's start with the most surprising one. Most people assume that talking to yourself means your thoughts are scattered, that you're confused, that your brain is working overtime just to keep up. The truth? It's the complete opposite. When you talk to yourself, you're not creating chaos, you're eliminating it. Think about your desk for a moment. When it's messy, everything blends together. Papers stack on top of papers. You can't find what you need, but the moment you start organizing, labeling folders, creating sections, putting things in their place, suddenly everything becomes accessible. Your brain works the same way. When thoughts stay silent, they remain abstract, they overlap, they compete for attention, but the moment you speak them out loud, something neurological happens. Those thoughts become concrete objects in space. They transform from vague feelings into distinct units of information that your brain can file, examine, and act upon. Here's a real example. You're planning your day. In your head, it's a jumbled mess. Groceries, that email, calling mum, the project, deadline. But when you say it out loud, okay, first the groceries, then I'll respond to that email, then call mum before tackling the project, your brain instantly creates a sequence, a structure, an action plan. You're not thinking harder, you're thinking smarter. Psychologists have studied this for decades. The phenomenon is called external cognition, and it refers to the way humans extend their thinking beyond the boundaries of their skull. You're essentially using your voice as a second processor, an external hard drive that helps sort the overwhelming amount of information your mind manages every single day. So when someone catches you muttering to yourself and gives you that look, remember this. You're not disorganized. You're so naturally organized that your brain requires multiple channels to handle the volume of complex thinking you're constantly doing. But organization is just the beginning. The second trait goes even deeper. Here's something most people never realize. The ability to observe yourself is not universal. Most people are completely merged with their thoughts. They don't watch themselves think. They simply are their thoughts. There's no separation, no perspective, no critical distance. But you've developed something most people never will. When you talk to yourself, especially when you address yourself by name or use you instead of I, you're creating what psychologists call psychological distance. You're stepping outside yourself, becoming both the subject and the observer. Listen to how this sounds. Why did I do that? Versus why did you do that? The second version automatically creates space. It's as if you're watching yourself from across the room, analysing your behaviour the way you'd analyse someone else's. This isn't just semantics. This is advanced emotional intelligence in action. Think about the last time you made a mistake. For most people, that mistake triggers immediate shame, defensiveness, or anxiety. They spiral. They can't separate themselves from the error. But when you talk to yourself, you can say something like, "All right, that didn't work. What can you do differently next time?" You're coaching yourself through it. You're becoming your own mentor, your own therapist, your own best friend. This ability to self-reflect without self-destruction is incredibly rare. Most people need external validation, external guidance, external reassurance. You've learned to provide it for yourself. And here's the most powerful part. This self-awareness creates a feedback loop. The more you talk to yourself, the better you understand your patterns, your triggers, your strengths and weaknesses. You're constantly refining your self-knowledge in real time. You're not talking to fill silence. You're building a relationship with the most important person you'll ever know, yourself. Now, this self-awareness naturally leads to the third trait, which might be the most practical one. Imagine you're assembling furniture. Instructions in hand, pieces scattered on the floor. Most people work in silence, occasionally grunting in frustration when things don't fit. But you narrate. Okay, this piece goes here. No, wait, flip it around. That's better. Now where's the screw? Right, got it. And something incredible happens when you do this. You solve the problem faster. Why? Because speaking activates multiple neural pathways simultaneously. When you describe what you're doing, you're engaging your motor cortex, your language center, and your problem-solving regions all at once. It's like turning on additional lights in a dark room. Suddenly you can see connections you couldn't see before. There's actual research backing this up. Studies have shown that people who verbalize during problem-solving tasks make fewer errors and complete tasks more quickly than those who work in silence. The act of speaking forces your brain to slow down just enough to catch mistakes before they happen. Think of it like this. Your thoughts move at lightning speed, too fast sometimes. They skip steps, make assumptions, jump to conclusions. But your voice moves at conversation speed. It forces your brain to walk through the process methodically, step by step. You're essentially creating a verbal checklist in real time. This is why you mutter when you're searching for something. When you say, "Where are my keys?" out loud, you're not just making noise, you're activating a search protocol. Your brain hears the word keys and immediately starts scanning your environment with laser focus, filtering out everything that isn't key-shaped. It's a targeting system, and you've developed it naturally, probably without even realizing it. But here's where it gets really interesting. This problem-solving ability doesn't just help with practical tasks, it extends to emotional challenges too. When you're upset, you might say, okay, why am I really upset? Is it the situation or how I'm interpreting it? You're debugging your own emotional code. You're not just living life, you're constantly optimizing it. And this brings us to the fourth and final trait, one that might surprise you most of all. Here's something society gets completely wrong. They think people who talk to themselves are lonely. The truth? You're the opposite of lonely. You're complete. Most people are terrified of being alone with their thoughts. They need constant external stimulation, music, TV, social media, other people, because silence feels unbearable. Their internal world feels empty, boring, or overwhelming. But you've turned your internal world into a sanctuary. When you talk to yourself, you're not filling uncomfortable silence. You're engaging with a companion who's always there, your own consciousness. You've realized something profound that most people never grasp. You're interesting. Your thoughts are worth expressing. Your perspective is worth hearing. This doesn't mean you don't value other people. It means you don't desperately need them to feel whole. There's a difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is painful emptiness. Solitude is peaceful fullness. When you talk to yourself, you're cultivating solitude, the ability to be genuinely content in your own company. Think about it. When you're alone and talking to yourself, are you miserable? Or are you working through ideas, entertaining yourself, keeping yourself company in the most literal sense? You've become self-sufficient in a way most people never achieve. You don't need constant external validation because you're providing your own internal dialogue. You're the narrator of your own life story, and you're both the audience and the performer. This is emotional maturity at its finest. And here's the beautiful irony. People who are most comfortable being alone are often the ones who build the strongest relationships. Why? Because they're not desperately clinging to others to fill a void. They're choosing connection from a place of wholeness, not neediness. So let's bring this all together. If you talk to yourself when you're alone, you're not strange. You're not losing it. You're not socially awkward or mentally unstable. You're organized. You're self-aware. You're an efficient problem solver. And you're profoundly comfortable with who you are. These 4 traits, cognitive organization, self-awareness, problem-solving ability, and comfort with solitude, are signs of a sophisticated, healthy, highly functional mind. The next time someone catches you mid-conversation with yourself and gives you a weird look, you can smile knowing something they don't. You're operating on a different level. You've developed skills that most people never will. You've turned your voice into a tool, your thoughts into conversations, and your solitude into strength. So keep talking to yourself. Keep narrating your life. Keep questioning, analyzing, organizing, and problem-solving out loud. Because the world needs more people who think deeply, know themselves completely, and aren't afraid to sound a little different in the process. If this resonates with you, if you've spent your whole life thinking this habit was weird only to discover it's actually a superpower, drop a comment below. Share which trait surprised you most. And hit that subscribe button because we're going to keep exploring the psychology behind the things that make you uniquely you. You're not weird. You're just awake in ways most people aren't. And that, right there, is something worth talking about.